Yo, I've been yapping for like a solid 5 minutes, but thank you for telling me that was muted. Yeah, that's okay. Wait, I think there should be sound now. Yeah, that's bad. That's bad. My bad, guys. My bad. Okay, wait. We have to recover from that. Okay. Okay, then I'm gonna speed it up a little bit. I'm gonna start from the very beginning. Yeah. Okay. So first off, we had the accelerated dragon, and I said yeah, this opening is based on the principle that black, well, gives up space in order to fight for the center, and you have a couple of main lines. And I used to think this opening was really bad. This Marochi bind was really bad because, of course, white gets lots of space, but in fact it's proven to be pretty difficult. Now this line is actually good for white. Yeah, it's proven that white has a big advantage, but now you have a couple of trendy lines which include a quick capture on d4, and the reason is that black is lacking space, therefore he wants to trade some pieces. That's quite obvious. And they play d6, and now he gets some dark squares, and I was, of course, discussing where to place it on the list. And I would say this opening is good, even if you're good. Oh yeah, wait, I also have to explain all the tiers again, but yeah, this is a little bit scuffed. I'm sorry, you guys, but anyways. So, okay, we have Hold Up, We're Cooking, and that means it's great, because we're cooking, obviously. Now, Immortal is Immortal. Good, even if you're good, means that it's just a solid opening, but you can't play it like 10 million times. Like, yeah, it can be the main weapon, I'd say. Then you have good, but only if you're bad. And this is essentially, openings that play on tricks and stuff like that. Then we have What Are We Doing and Why? That speaks for itself. We have Garbage Unplayable. That also speaks for itself. And then we have MK Bridge Spam. Now, this refers to the Mega Knight Bridge Spam. I don't know if some of you are playing Clash Royale, then you will know this reference. Yeah, it just means you're brain dead, essentially. So, like, don't touch that. Yeah, then before this, I was talking about, in vacation, I will go play the Rilton Cup, just like last year. It's the Christmas season, so that's great, but it is getting late outside pretty early, so I'm a little bit tired. I'm a little bit dizzy also. I think I got some food poisoning. It is what it is. And now we can finally carry on with the Berlin. So, okay. It was pretty fast. We're fixed. So, regardless, the Berlin defense starts after these moves: Knight c6, Bishop e5, Knight f6. And I was telling you guys that this can be a forced draw after these moves. Yeah, this is more or less forced on top level, and you will see many draws like this, because black doesn't really have any better moves than this. Now, additionally, after Bishop b5, Knight f6, you have the symmetrical variation, which is Rook e1. We capture everything. I think, wait, actually, they play Bishop e7, Bishop f1. They capture everything. This is also pretty dry, but Knight f6 does have some aura, in the sense that it was used by 14th world champion Vladimir Kramnik to secure his title. Yeah, he played it against Garry Kasparov, the greatest chess player, ever, in fact. And Kasparov wasn't able to crack this opening, and modern engines aren't either. And it's good if you want to draw. And I will definitely, put it in the Immortal list, because it's a great opening. It's objectively good. You can't really go wrong with it. But like, if you're below, let's say like 2400, don't touch this, because like you shouldn't be making draws. But like, it's good if you're at a high level. Let's say it like that. And just the historical connotation makes me pretty happy. Just gives me a warm, fuzzy feeling on the inside. Already feeling a lot better. Okay, then the next opening is the Chigorin defense, but against 1d4. And the reason it says but against 1d4 is because there's two Chigorin defenses. And we'll get to the other one later, of course. But this opening arises after the moves d4, d5, c4, and then they play e6, I think. Yeah, knight c3, and then they play knight c6. And this used to be regarded as really stupid. because, of course, you know, you put the knight in front of the pawn, which obviously wants to bolster the center or play c5. But lately it's been seeing some trendiness on the top level. I've seen players also play this, knight f6, knight f3, and then knight c6. And yeah, it turns out it's not as stupid as people thought it was. You know, after e3, I think there's some plans with bishop d6 taking and then playing e5. But it's clear that white will gain an advantage because he will get a 4 pawns versus 3 pawns on the king side. So yeah, but it's definitely decent. But it's also, it's not exactly, you know, the most sound opening ever. Like I wouldn't play it every single time. So I would say it's good even if you're good, but it will be at like the bottom here. Like it's edging these 2 tiers. Okay, then we have Philidor e-take d4. Now, this opening, just like the Chigorin, has also 2 different names, because you have the Philidor defense, which starts after d6, knight f6, and e5, which we're gonna check soon, and we have the opening that's e4, e5, knight f3, and then d6. And I used to think this opening was just stupid. And the reason is that, well, now white has a pawn in the center extra, an extra piece developed, more space, and the engines also give him a big advantage. And after knight c3, bishop f4, queen d2, that's the main line for an advantage. Yeah, white is doing well. You can also play g3, you can play bishop c4. There's quite a lot of options for white. But in fact, there are many sort of options for black, and I underestimated this because I saw one of my teammates, he played this opening, and I think he won in a solid 25 moves. And yeah, I don't know how he did it with black here, but he did so against a master player, and also just a very strong one. So yeah, I think I underestimated this opening. And the point of black is that, let's say white just does nothing. So he plays bishop e7, bishop e2, castles. And he wants to kind of play rook e8, bishop f8. Sometimes b6 on a good day, but mostly bishop d7, knight c6. Oh. So like that, and he wants to put full pressure on e4. He wants to take the knight on d4, put his bishop on c6, gain full pressure. And in that fashion, he will, yeah, still, white is a little bit better, but he will obtain some counterplay. So I would say this opening is good even if you're good. And it's above the Chigorin, I think. Because I've seen grandmasters play it with good results. So I underestimated this one. It's not that bad. Okay, then now the Elephant Gambit. Yeah, by the way, I might be wrong, but I think that's the opening that's like knight f3 and then d5. Am I correct? Yes, this is the Elephant Gambit. Yeah, this is like, what are we doing and why? I don't know the point of this opening. I've seen, you know, I haven't really seen anyone play it either. It's not good. Knight takes e5 is much better for white, and e takes d5 is also much better for white. And then even d4 will probably lead to an advantage. So I'm like, what are we doing and why? I don't understand this. Don't touch this. It's garbage, unplayable, basically. Okay. Grunfeld defense. Yeah, this is a classical opening, of course. This opening starts with white playing d4, black playing knight f6, c4, g6, and classically they play knight c3. And well, you know, a lot of you will see, you know, play bishop g7, e4, and d6 and e5. That's the King's Indian. But here they play d5. And this opening, unlike the King's Indian, has withstood the test of time. And yeah, it's very interesting. It has, you know, a lot of exceptional pawn structures with players, you know, really trying anything. But the point is that black gives up the center, puts his bishop on g7, and now he has created a weakness with white. So he gives up the entire center and attacks it from a distance. And this is also what we see with openings like the Fierce Defense And this is really that 20th century Aljechin type of spirit. And yeah, unlike the Aljechin's defense, this one really just stood the test of time, like I said. With many top players using it as their main weapons, I will say this is immortal. This is just such an original idea, you know, just to play d5. And also, it's one of those openings white really has to know what they're doing, as well as black. And yeah, nowadays even players are playing, you know, moves like f3 to avoid black from taking on c3. And yeah, this is just a different tabia, and you also have players just going for h4, which I find hilarious and a little bit ridiculous, but, you know, if grandmasters are playing it, then it must be pretty okay. So that's that. Okay, now we are going to go to the Budapest and the England Gambit, and these are two different openings, of course, but they have the same type of idea. And you know, after e5, this is the England Gambit, and we know I've made a video on this where we're over this, and yeah, it's just it disappoints me whenever someone plays this, and the reason is that it like, what are you doing and why? Because, you know, white will take this pawn, and you will play knight c6, and he'll play knight f3, and then you go queen e7 because you want to get off your trick, and then he plays bishop f4 and you check him. And, like, you know what you're doing doesn't make any sense. You know, like, you have a queen on b2, he has a pawn in the center extra, like, why are we doing this? And, you know, this is something that's, you know, gotten into fashion after, you know, these YouTubers popularized it. And I'm sure many people won a lot of games with this opening. But personally, I think this is just garbage. And, you know, you should be trying to improve at chess and not study some trick. And I think it's just kind of brain dead. Like I said earlier with the MK bridge spam, this is the exact definition of that. Like, it has no point except this one trick, which is like, what is it, like bishop c3 and then bishop b4. This is the only trick. And then, like, you get off your trick and then you win, or you don't and you lose. I'm a fake chess player. Wow. And why would that be? Yeah, no, I think I'm a real chess player. I've been in this game for, yeah, ever since I was 12 years. Yeah. It's been quite a road. How are you? Yeah, like I said, a little bit dizzy earlier. You know, it gets dark very early where I'm from, and yeah, so I'm just tripping a bit in my head, but we are, of course, making this tier list. So that's great. I'm feeling great about that. Yeah, I'm happy that I get to do this. So yeah, don't play the Budapest and it's just trash. The next up we have the Bogo Indian, and this opening is one I've used with a great score, and it was actually a very important game, and I do love this one. So it starts with 1d4, and then you play knight f6. Oh wait, actually, wait, I went too fast. I forgot to mention the Budapest. That would be if he plays e5 here. And just like the England Gambit, this one also just gives away a pawn. And then, you know, eventually they recapture on e5, and white will get more space. I will say this one is way more reasonable than the England Gambit, but it's also kind of stupid. So that's just a quick opinion. But I really want to talk about the Bogo Indian, because this one just makes me happy. So it starts with e6, and the black player wants to play the Nimzo Indian after knight c3, bishop b4, which is just a lovely, lovely opening. So the white players play knight f3, saying, if you put your bishop on b4, you can't double my pawns. And I gladly do so, and I play it anyway. That's the Bogo Indian. It's very nice. And yeah, I think this is just very interesting. And the reason is that, well, black wants to give up his dark squared bishop, again after a move like knight d2, and then he wants to put all his pawns on dark squares. And I've used this opening 2 times, and yeah, once I just made a quick draw when I was slightly better with black, but it did secure me, you know, a prize, so that's why I did that. And one time, you know, the very last round of the Dutch league, those of you who don't know what that is, every country has its own league where teams compete. I don't know what this sound is, but yeah, teams compete. And then at the end, after 9 rounds, you know, one team obviously is at top. And yeah, I managed to win a game, and that's partly that caused us to win the Dutch national team championship. Rhys, read your chat. I do read my chat, in fact. Yeah, actually it's cut off a little bit, but here, I don't know if I can extend it like ever so slightly. Yeah, that looks, now I can sort of see it. Yeah, but I have to hop over from OBS to Chrome because I kind of set up everything wrong. I'm sorry about that, but I mean, it is what it is. Yeah, I was a little bit nauseous before this, but anyways, so yeah, this opening is great. And yeah, so you have 2 main moves. You have bishop d2 and you have knight c3. Sorry, bishop d2 and knight bd2. Knight c3 would transpose to the Nimzo Indian. So then why are you playing knight f3? I mean, I guess if you want to play Catalan against everything else, but okay, it is what it is. So they play knight f3, bishop b4, bishop d2. Now here there's a couple of moves like a5, queen e7, and bishop takes d2. Yeah, I played queen e7, and the point is that, of course, the queen gets active if he takes, which is good for black. So you keep the tension. Eventually, after g3, you know, you take, you put all your pawns on dark squares, and yeah, you have quite a solid and nice position. I would say I would really recommend this if you're like an intermediate player. If you're like, you know, like 1500 rated on FIDE, you should pick this up. I would have loved to pick this one up a long time ago. The concept is nice. It's very sound. I would say it's hold up, we're cooking. Because I wouldn't play it every single game, but you can. Like, it's not... I just want to keep, of course, the surprise effect. But this opening is definitely good enough that you can play it many times. So yeah, that's the Bogo Indian. Now we go to the Sveshnikov, and this is, of course, named after Sveshnikov. He was a Russian grandmaster who pioneered 2 openings, both which I also have played. Now the first one is e5. This would be the Kalashnikov Sicilian, which we'll get to in a second. And the second one is knight f6, knight c3, and now black plays e5. And so what black has done is he's exchanged the c pawn for the d pawn. So he has an extra pawn in the center. And so therefore, you know, white has to act quick. So they play knight b5, try to get in here. Then they play d6, bishop g5, a6, knight a3. And now bishop e7 would be called the bird. Yeah, I don't think I included this in the tier list, actually. So that's one of the openings I forgot. But this is not that good. And yeah, Sveshnikov came up with the move b5, which is, of course, a very natural move. You're threatening b4, winning immediately a horsey. And yeah, that forces action of white. Now, let me read the check real quick. I think there is also c5 at what point? Like where? But yeah, b4. Yeah, so knight ab1 is a trendy move that white has tried. Bishop takes f6 is a move following knight d5. And also knight d5 is a move for white. And I would say it's pretty theoretical, but it's super sound. It's very strong. Magnus Carlsen used it also to get the World Championship title against Fabiano Caruana to retain it. And they played some of the most interesting games ever played. You know, after this move knight d5, takes knight b8 as well as knight e7. Yeah, that's what I also like about this opening for black. You have many options. So, for example, in this main line, you can put the knight on these 2 squares. And if he plays bishop g5, a6, knight a3, and knight d5, yeah, you can play bishop e7, takes. This is all forced. Yeah, I'm getting into, you know, a bit of a nitty-gritty. But yeah, you can play bishop g5, you can castle, and play rook b8. So those are 3 options. Oh, and also knight e7. So I would say that this opening is definitely immortal. I would say, yeah, no, it's I guess, slightly under Berlin. and it's about the same as the Grunfeld. I would say this is a solid rank. These are just beautiful, beautiful openings, which I would recommend to anybody, frankly. All right. Next up is the Albin counter gambit. This arises after d4, d5, c4, and e5. This is one of those openings where you watch the YouTube short, you know, with some random YouTuber telling you that, you know, if he takes and then you play d4 and then, you know, there's some random trick after a couple of moves, which I personally don't even remember. But yeah, there's no real idea behind this opening. Of course, black gains some space, but this pawn is just really valuable. White will get the long diagonal. So I would say this is like Mega Knight bridge spamming. Yeah, it doesn't really make any sense. It's kind of like, what are we doing? Why are we doing this? But it's specifically motivated by internet, so that's why I put it in Mega Knight bridge spam. Okay, now we have the Chigorin, the fence, Chigorin, and this one is not after d4. This is the other Chigorin I was talking about earlier. Yeah, these names are confusing, but that's because, of course, the same person can pioneer many, many openings. And I played this one myself also, actually. Yeah, I guess I just played a lot of openings. But anyways, we got the Rui Lopez, a6, bishop a4, knight f6, castles, bishop e7, rook e1, b5, bishop e3, d6, c3, castles, h3. And now there's a couple of moves. Knight b8, bishop b7, bishop e6, h6, rook e8. You know, all of them have been tried. But... Oh, and also knight d7, actually. But this move is knight a5. And it's a very ambitious move. And, yeah, I also have good memories of this, because it also helped me clinch some great points. The point is that white's bishop is attacked, so it drops back, and then black plays c5. And now he has lots of space. And, you know, yes, tension in the center, and I would say this is a very good opening. Now here there's two lines, knight d7 and queen c7. Now this queen c7 is the main line and the best move, and knight d7 is... I would say knight d7 is like... good, but only if you're bad. And then I would say queen c7 is good even if you're good. Like, this opening is good. I wouldn't play it every single game, because it hasn't completely withstood the test of time. You know, the engines are saying it's like 0.5, 6, but it doesn't have any real practical value, the engine assessment of this very difficult closed position. And yeah, analysis does show that, you know, in the end, black turns out to be fine. But yeah, of course, if you play it too many times, you're gonna get surprised. But yeah, I think this is a good opening. I would recommend it, you know, also to almost anyone. Up until you're like really like a grandmaster. And then you should only play it as a surprise. But this is good even if you're good, and it's better than all of these other openings. I would say this is really a classical opening. It is very great and solid, but you just shouldn't play it every game. But like, if you're lower rated, you should. So like, if you understand what I'm saying, if that makes any sense. Okay. Next opening is the Scheveningen variation. Yeah, you don't pronounce it as Scheveningen, or, you know, whatever the English people pronounce it as. Yeah, this is a Dutch place, and of course, yeah, I live in the Netherlands, so I know how to pronounce it. It's Scheveningen, and this opening is a Sicilian that was very popular back in the day. It starts with e4, c5, knight f3, and now you can play either e6 or d6, but most prefer e6, because then you avoid moves like the Moscow, but you do allow the delayed Alapin, which is also tricky. But anyhow, they play takes, knight f6, knight c3. Yeah, and then you have the 4 knight Sicilian, which starts with knight c6, which I just realized is probably not in my list. That's a pretty good opening, you can play it. Anyway, the Scheveningen opening is d6. And this opening has a lot of history, and nowadays most people prefer to play the Najdorf Sicilian. And the reason is that actually the opening is kind of refuted, even though many world champions have played it. And the reason is that white can immediately play g4, which is called the Keres attack, named after Paul Kires from Estonia. Now, this move looks ridiculous because you're not developing any pieces, but, you know, if he just makes a random move, yeah, white just has a huge advantage here. Yeah, he can develop this. There's probably, like, knight takes e6 here, and white wins. So, yeah, white just gets a huge lead in development, more space after this move g4. So they play h6, prevent that. And then you have h4, rook g1, and bishop e3, they're all moves. But, yeah, it's kind of just better for white at the end of the day, and that's why, you know, you don't see too many grandmasters playing this anymore. Even though, you know, the classical main line, which is bishop e2, bishop e3, castles f4, has withstood the test of time, and is a great opening, and also can be reached through transpositions from the Knight of Sicilian, for example. So let's say you play, you know, d6, and you play the Najdorf, here a6, and then he plays bishop e2. Now you can play e6, and g4 isn't as good for complicated reasons. So now you get the classical main line of the Scheveningen, and many players play this. So this is, you know, based. But the Scheveningen isn't, because of that reason. So I would say it's good, but only if you're bad. Because it's good if they don't know that they can play g4. Next up, we have the Timon of Sicilian. And this is another Sicilian defense. And this one starts after e6. Yeah, white plays the open Sicilian, of course. Knight c6, knight c3. And now they play queen c7. And this is the Taimanov variation. And this is one that was, you know, very popular back in the day. You know, players like Anish Giri really loved this system. Great games have been played with it. It's not exactly bad, but it's very impractical. Because there's many lines against this, like f3, bishop e3, a3, you know, taking on c6, h4, like there's g4. Many moves which white can play, and it's just very shaky to play with black. I would say it's good even if you're good, but it's very risky. I'll put it above. Now I'll put it slightly under the accelerated dragon. That's where I'm gonna put it. Okay, then we have the Peerage defense, and this one is actually, I don't have to put too many moves on the board. We just play d6. Yeah, d4, knight f6, knight c3. And now g6. This is the Peerage defense. And this defense is also featured on the channel, you know, in the game Karpov with the white pieces playing knight e2, g3 versus Jan Timman. This is also another 20th century opening. And just like the Aljegens defense and the Grunfeld, which we saw earlier, black wants to put his bishop on g7, not occupy the center with his pawns. You know, he could have played moves like e5, for example, here. No, he puts his bishop on g7. He says, wait a minute, I'm just gonna, you know, attack the center from a distance with moves like c6 and b5. And then this pawn on e4 can get weak after a move like b4. And I would say this move, this opening, is definitely solid. And it is good, but I would say it's good, but only if you're bad. Because at a certain point it has been a little bit, like, refuted. But then at the same time, Kukesh also played it once. So, like, how bad can it really be? You know, it's mixed. Because objectively, the engine will say this line is bad. But it's very complicated. And it gives really interesting positions. So I would say it's good even if you're good. Now that I think about it. But, like, really low. Really low. Yeah, I think Philidor e takes d4 is, like, slightly better, and Chigorin is probably worse. Yeah, I think the Peerage defense is, it's a great opening. It's tricky. But, like, the engine hates it. That's the only issue. So, yeah, and the concept of it is very beautiful, you know, attacking the center from a distance. Really, yeah, elevating the game to a certain degree, not playing basic moves, you know, trying to catch your opponent off guard, stuff like that. That's why I like it. That's why I would say it's good even if you're good. Okay, then we have the modern defense. That's nice that I put these right beside each other, because then you won't forget the difference. Now, we just saw d6, knight f6, and g6. And the modern defense starts after 1 g6, d4, bishop g7, knight c3, and now d6. And this opening looks the same. You may say, well, is this the same? And no, it's not. And the point is that here black gets an additional option. So let's say white plays, a move like f4. Very ambitious. Now black can play a6 followed by b5. And he postpones this knight on g8, especially after a move like bishop e3, queen d2, bishop h6. If he were to play knight f6, you guys could see that eventually bishop h6 comes, and the h6 square is protected. So white will be able to trade the bishops. But with the knight on g8, that square is covered. So that's a very tricky concept. And so it's very risky, because you're not developing any of your pieces. But at the same time, you're playing very ambitiously by grabbing the space on the queen side with a6 and b5. I would put this above the Pierce defense. I've seen many grandmasters play it even against each other and get good results. This has to be good even if you're good. And I would put this, at probably... I'm going to put this above the Accelerated Dragon. Yeah, I think this opening is just really... has really a fighting spirit to it. It definitely works. And now we get to the Kalashnikov Sicilian. So I was just talking about the Sveshnikov, which arises after knight f6 and e5, and we gave that immortal. And this opening is e5 immediately. And now this one I have played... this was actually my second opening as a kid. I played this. No, wait, actually my first opening, now that I think about it. Yes, my first opening. And the point is, of course... just like in the Sveshnikov, you have an extra center pawn, and yeah, that makes it strategically very sound and very interesting. Now, here after d6, white can play c4, again achieving some sort of Marochi bind, just like in the Accelerated Dragon. But this opening is actually just pretty playable for black. Moves like g6. And theory has showed that black is actually okay in this. So nowadays they play, moves like knight c3. And then b5 is the old main line, which is kind of bad. Then you have bishop e7 is a pretty good move. Bishop e6 is a pretty good move. Yeah, I think those really are the two main moves. You also have knight f6, of course. But then after, like bishop g5... you are kind of transposing into a Sveshnikov. So then it's not really the Kalashnikov anymore. But overall, I would say this opening is... objectively, it's sound. Interesting games. I would say this is a hold-up we're cooking. And the reason is... yeah, wait, actually, I am, of course, a little bit biased. I just realized I put two of my own openings in hold-up we're cooking. But the reason is it's just very tricky. And it just gives, many... chances to black, and it gives many chances to white to go wrong. So that's why I like this one. Okay, next up we have the Damiano defense. Yeah, when I was making this, I had to Google what this was, because I kind of forgot, but apparently it's when you play f6 here. And yeah, I mean, this is also a YouTube short, but then for the white pieces, because here, of course, you can take on e5, and when he takes... you give up the knight, but the king gets launched into the center, and white achieves a great attack as such. And I think, like, after h4, d3, he's just getting checkmated. So, like, the move f6. Here after e5, knight f3, f6. Apart from the fact it loses on the spot, the knight takes e5. Bishop c4 is also, like, almost winning for white, so this is just garbage, unplayable. Don't do this. It doesn't make any sense. Okay, then we have the old Benoni. Now this move would be c5, attacking the center immediately. White grabs space, and then you play e5. This opening, I don't know if it was ever great. I think I've seen some classical games of actually just white winning a bunch of times. I don't think it has ever been great. And the concept is kind of flawed, because he's burying his bishop. He has very passive pieces. You know, this knight has to go to d7. This bishop stays stuck. And generally, I've seen only good things happen for the white side. I don't have never seen any good player try this. You know, in any tournament. So yeah, I wouldn't play this. I think it's not even good if you're bad. I would say it's like, what are we doing and why? Rhys, are you open to a dilemma? That probably depends. It's definitely above the elephant gambit, of course, but like, why are you like this? The concept is just very flawed. I mean, it used to be played by some, you know, grandmasters, but it was really back in the day. Just don't do this one. Don't touch it. It's not worth it. Okay, the next is the Owen's defense. This one starts after e4, and then he plays b6. And then after d4, bishop b7. You know, knight c3, they play e6 and bishop b4. And after bishop d3, they just resign themselves to the fact that white has a big advantage. So this opening just gives an advantage for no reason. It's just a worse version of the French defense. Don't play this. I would say it's, again, what are we doing and why? This opening seems to have no point. Yeah, it's not good. It just gives up the center, and unlike the modern defense, which has a clear purpose, or the Grunfeld defense, this one, yeah, doesn't really do anything. Don't touch this one. It's not good. Now we have the French. E4, e6. And here, well, Bobby Fischer used to play knight f3, g3, the King's Indian attack, but nowadays we all play d4, d5. Now either knight c3, knight d2, bishop d3 if you're feeling frisky, or e5. Those are the moves. And this opening was of course played by Dingley Ren and Jan Nepomniachtchi in World Championship matches. It's solid. It's, you know, very uncompromising, because you're giving white all this space. Let's say in the advanced variation, you can see this bishop is blocked in. White has more space, but yet you're willing to accept that and pressure this d4 pawn. Counter from a distance again. Also in some ways, I mean, I might be reaching it a bit, but also in some ways very spirited, like the 20th century, like the Oljechin's defense. And this one is actually objectively good. So I would say this one is immortal. It's objectively good. You know, it's uncompromising. You get interesting games. There's no way to kill the game. Yeah, you can give it a try. It's alright. It's alright. Then now we have the dragon. Yeah, I put an M instead of an N, but that's what it is. The dragon defense is e4, c5, knight f3, d6, d4, take, knight f6, knight c3, g6. And listen, this used to be a great opening. There were many theoretical discussions about it, you know, grandmasters playing it from both sides, and it's very interesting and rich until the engines came about. Because they kind of, you know, send white into an endgame, which is slightly better, and black just has to do that and kind of wait around. And I think that's why many great players don't play this anymore, even though objectively it's good. Objectively it's sound. So, because it is, you know, kind of killed, but the spirit is very nice, I would say it's good even if you're good. Because first of all, you know, white has to go into that very long theoretical line. But, you know, when he does do that, you're kind of cooked. So, yeah, it's a bit tricky. Because you're not exactly losing either, but it's just unpleasant. I would say it's good even if you're good. It's better than the Chigorin for sure. It's better than Pirch. It's not better than Philidor, E takes d4, or Taimanov. No. So that I would rate it there. Okay, now we have one of the most classical openings ever, which is the Sicilian defense Najdorf variation. And this is really where chess started to take off an entirely different route. Because like I was saying earlier, we had c5, knight f3, d6, d4, take, knight f6, knight c3, and they all played e6. But of course, Kid has played g4, kind of beating the system. And so they played a6 first. And this is called the Sicilian Najdorf, named after Mieczysław Najdorf, I think. Where's the... Yeah, I think, because he's Polish, he has a Polish name. I might have butchered his name, but it is what it is. This one is, of course, beautiful. It's where, you know, many people's love for the game comes from. There is every single move ever has been tried against this one, and it has withstood the test of time. And I don't want to glaze this opening too hard, but it really is beautiful. It just brings a smile to your face. And yeah, of course now g4 isn't possible because the bishop can take, so that's the point. They wait one move, and then when you play, you know, any random move, they play e6. They used to do that, by the way. And now they also play e5. Which is pointed out by the engines as a better move, I guess. It's objectively better. And yeah, in the Najdorf you have many options. There's almost not a single line which you're not able to, you know, vary against. So yeah, many different options from the black side. The only drawback is that you have to know a lot of things, but like, I mean, y'all want to get better at chess, so I would say this is, of course, is immortal, and it's above the Berlin defense, and the reason is that it actually brings fighting games. You're not trying to make a draw, and it's objectively sound, so this is a love for the game. If you play the Najdorf, you're doing it for the love of the game, which is beautiful. Okay, here, let's see the dilemma. Okay. You interrace with a dark-skinned person, or you interrace with an Asian person? It's late, man. It's really late. Probably Asian. Anyways, we're looking now. The Breyer defense. Now this opening is e4, e5, knight f3, knight c6. Bishop b5, a6, bishop a4, knight f6. Castles, bishop e7, rook e1, b5, bishop b3, d6, c3. And then castles, h3, and knight b8. That's the move. And this move is strange because you're putting the knight on b8. And, yeah, why are you retreating the knight? Right? Because you're supposed to keep developing with moves like bishop d7 and whatnot. But the point is that now, after d4, knight d7, he can play bishop b7, rook e8, and attack e4. And this really, you know, is also modern spirited. Yeah, I guess there's just a lot of openings that were invented in the 20th century. But now that I think about this, yeah, this opening was invented by Gyula Breyer, a Hungarian chess grandmaster who I think was taken from us, you know, at a very young age, which is of course very unfortunate. But he did bring this opening to the game, and yeah, any respected chess player knows who he is. So he is in fact immortal, and the opening is objectively sound. I would say, you know, White has an advantage because he has more space. I would say it's hold up or cooking. It's good, but it's not... There's not exactly every grandmaster is playing it. Like, you know, you have some grandmasters, Peter Lecco being one of them, at the very top, and they do play it occasionally, but it's not like they're playing it every day. So, hold up or cooking. King's Indian defense. This move is d4, knight f6, c4, g6, knight c3, bishop g7, e4. Castles, knight f3, and d6. And this is a very rich opening. It used to be great. Used to be played by every single grandmaster, basically, except the really solid ones. But nowadays, you know, the opening has been, you know, not exactly cracked by the engine, but they don't like it. But still, you know, I see countless of grandmasters try it. And, you know, the difference between an opening like the King's Indian and the the old Benoni, because they are objectively, they both might be similar. Like, it's definitely a lot better for white. White has more space. But in this case, the positions are so messy that even after all the computer analysis people did, all the computer analysis, you know, you still have 2650 grandmasters just playing this every single game, just always. Which means I have to put it in Immortal, because if the 2650s can crack it, neither will you and I, right? So, like, it's Immortal. And I would say it's below the Grunfeld, because that one's actually good. I would say it's like this, yeah. But yeah, the only drawback that the King's Indian has is just that it's kind of, yeah, you just lack a lot of space, because, you know, the point is that after e5 you'll get some structure after d5 eventually. They don't play it immediately, I believe, but you'll get a structure like this, and then black typically you know, plays a move like this, plays f5, tries to play on the king side, and then white you know, kind of castles. Of course, this isn't the main line, but I'm just trying to point this out. And then puts his pawn on f3, and he plays on the queen side. And then, yeah, you get this. White is attacking on the queen side, and black is going for the king. And the psychology of this is interesting. Because if you are attacking the king, you know, that really gives it a sort of extra dire element. And so let's say, you know, white wins a rook on the queen side. Well, if you're getting checkmated, that obviously doesn't matter. And I think this psychology really plays a huge part into it. Because, yeah, like I said, objectively it should be good for white, but it's really difficult to handle these positions with white. So it's Immortal. It's Immortal. Semi-Slav defense. Yeah, this move is d4. It can be reached through many move orders, but it's, you know, classically it would be this: c4, e6, knight c3, knight f6, knight f3, and now c6. Building a little block. Yeah, this opening I've also played. And it has very rich positions. The idea is that you want to play b5, hold on to your pawn. So, yeah, many white players play e3, guard the pawn. And at a good moment, you take, white takes, play b5, bishop drops back, and you play c5, opening up the bishop at some point. And yeah, theory proves this opening is great. Many top players still play it. It's definitely Immortal. I would put it right here. It's a beautiful opening. Yeah, it's very good. You love to see it, basically. That's, you know, the only issue with it is that there's some boring lines. Like, white can play very boring and symmetrical. But of course, you know, if you're happy with a draw with black, that's great. And if white is up to the fight, you will get one of the most, you know, interesting tabias ever, which is, for example, here knight bd7, you know, bishop b2, dc4, taking, b5, this, bishop d6, or bishop b7. And yeah, it just gives very rich positions, brings a smile to your face. You should give it a go if you're up to it. Immortal. Okay, then we have the Caro-Kann. Now this opening used to be a bit of a joke. Back when I started playing chess, you know, maybe it was just me, but everyone I know made jokes about that this opening is kind of passive and bad and blah blah blah. And the reason is because all of these 1700 you know, 60-year-olds would play it. And yeah, mostly they would fall for this opening trap we had back in the day, and that gave us some very nice wins. But overall, this opening, yeah, now of course has been popularized lots by Levi Rosman, also bringing it, yeah, to the internet in front of millions of people will probably popularize it. But yeah, overall about this opening. So the idea is that they're trying to get an improved French. So the French defense was e6, d4, d5, e5. And we see this bishop is cooked. It can't get out of the chain. That bishop is very bad. So they play c6 instead, d4, d5. And now after e5 they play bishop f5. And they claim, well, I've got my bishop out of the pawn chain. I will develop my pieces and still attack the center, and now I have a better version of the French. the only issue with it is that you spend a move with the bishop. This knight and the bishop both want to go to e7, both to the same square, and that causes some issues, real issues. I would say this opening overall has withstood the test of time, but isn't exactly immortal like the French defense. I would say it's hold up where cooking at the top, because it is risky at the top level. There's a reason they're not all playing the Caro-Kann every single time, and also, I have very great results against it myself. So yeah, I like to face this with white, if I'm being completely honest. I don't understand the Caro-Kann hype train. I think it's a little bit overrated, if we're being honest. And now we have the Philidor hand. Now this opening is also the Philidor, but instead of e5, e takes d4, which we saw earlier, we are now seeing d6, d4, knight f6, knight c3, and then e5. So we saw the Perch defense attacking from a distance, and now we have the Philidor playing e5 here, which allows a queen trade, but this endgame is, yeah, it's better for white, but not crazy good. And mostly, yeah, they get this sort of setup like this, castle, c6, queen c7. I would say it's a good opening. It's a little passive. I would say it's good even if you're good. I've seen grandmasters win with it. I've seen them lose with it terribly hard. I've played my best game ever. Or, well, maybe not ever, but, like, a very good game. On paper, my best game ever. Because I beat a very high-rated player, but yeah, he really didn't play too well. So, but yeah, after the move rook g1, g4, g5, taking advantage of the fact that this bishop again is blocked. Yeah, I guess this is sort of a recurring theme. Whenever the bishop is not looking at g4, we try to play g4 ourselves. We saw it in the Scheveningen defense, knight or Sicilian. And now here we play rook g1, and then, yeah, white gets an advantage in this line, white gets an advantage in bishop c4, in h3, almost any line. But it is very solid and uncompromising. It gives black good chances. It's good even if you're good, and it's, like, better than all these other ones, I would say. Yeah. Okay. Then we have Kann Sicilian. This one will be e4, c5, knight f3, e6, d4, take. It's also called the Paulsen opening, but, I'm getting confused, because some people, they call the Taimanov Sicilian the Paulsen variation, and some call this Paulsen Kann or Kann, but yeah, there's just a couple of people who pioneered this opening, and yeah, that's why the names are confusing, but this is the Kann Sicilian, and it would have been good if Vishy Anand won against Magnus in the infamous double blunder game. That's a game from the World Championship in which, Magnus Carlsen blundered a very, stupid trick, and then Anand didn't play it, and that might have cost him the World Championship title, if we're being completely real. But yeah, this opening doesn't develop any pieces yet. It waits to put them on the best squares, I guess. And after, c4, which is again the main move, whenever white doesn't really attack the center immediately, they just kind of play c4, because space, yippee. And then, we get moves like knight f6, knight c3, and then, the main line of the Kann Sicilian is just kind of, again, a slightly better endgame for white, which arises after bishop b4 and queen d3. This was used by Magnus to beat Viswanathan Anand if he did not blunder a completely beautiful model game. Yeah, this is just kind of better for white. It is what it is. So they play queen c7, a3 and b6. And they play a hedgehog. And, like, it used to be good, but now it's kind of bad. That's the current state of affairs. No grandmaster is really playing this consistently, unless they're like 60 years old. So yeah, I would say it is good objectively, but it's not a lot of fun. It's good even if you're good, but, like, don't play it every single time. Play it surprise only. Okay, it does go above Chigorin against d4. It does go above Pirch, not above the dragon. But it does definitely go above the Pirch. That's the Con Sicilian. Slav. Slav is d4, d5, c4, c6. And this opening intends to take on c4, just like the semi-Slav, but also put the bishop out. Yeah, I don't have too much to say about this opening. It's just very solid. It's objectively good. It does have a lot of drawing tendencies and gives white a slight edge. You know, for example, after c takes d5, oh yeah, white is, you know, slightly better, probably, because he has one extra move. It's not too much. And then he can also go for the main lines, you know. Here, d takes c4, I think they play a4 and then e3. And this is good for black as well. It's solid. But it's... yeah, it is what it is. It's solid. It's not my cup of tea. Some players really like it, though. It's interesting. So, yeah, and of course also many grandmasters have used it, you know, in the past to, yeah, really get themselves up to a different level. And it is, you know, one of those historical openings. It's just not my cup of tea, but it is definitely immortal. That's the issue. It is an immortal opening. It's still being played by many grandmasters today. So, yeah, I would say the Slav defense is definitely great, but has some drawish tendencies. Queen's Indian. That's d4, knight f6, c4, e6, knight f3. And now instead of the Bogo Indian, which I glazed for like 5 minutes earlier, it's b6. And this move can transpose to the Bogo Indian, but it just also fights for the center from a distance. It's a great opening. It's also immortal for sure. You know, it was used by many players like Karpov, you know, just basically any grandmaster you can think of. Hikaru Nakamura has also played it. It's immortal. I like it more than the Slav, so we put it above that one. This is definitely a great opening, and yeah, I would recommend it. But yeah, I don't want to dive too deeply into it because it's very similar to bishop b4 check. You know, you want to attack the center from a distance again, and then put a pawn in the center. Sometimes they play c5, sometimes they play bishop a6 and d5. Sometimes the double fianchetto. It's very, you know, flexible as well. So that's great. So this is a good opening for sure. Now what do we have up next? Petrov. This is e4, e5, knight f3. And now, you know, when you're a bit of a beginner, you might want a mirror image. And that is the Petrov defense. This opening is very good. It's extremely hard to crack with white. You know, VI recently used it to get, I think, the second place in the FIDE World Cup. I wouldn't recommend this if you're like beginning with chess because it's, you know, a bit dry. But basically the idea is that now you have a symmetrical position. But there will, you know, there will come some imbalances because, you know, white will play with c4 and typically black will play knight c6 or c6. So it's a good opening. It's immortal for sure. There's no reason not to pick it up, but it is a bit boring. So that's that. Okay, yeah, I would say, yeah, it's here. It's probably above. Not. But actually, I underrated the Queen's Indian, if I'm being real. Like the Queen's Indian should probably go above these. It's better than the King's Indian, and then we put like the Petrov should go all the way here, slightly under the Berlin. You know, because the Berlin is kind of the Petrov, but then better. To it, like that makes no sense, but like it does because you're both putting the pawn on e5. Oh, but I guess, you know, there are some questions you can still ask to the Petrov, and you can ask more questions. So then you can do in the Berlin, I have a feeling. Yeah, there's just many variations, you know, c4, d4. You could play d4 here, knight c3. And you can't really do that in the Berlin. There's only like, you know, 5 lines that are good, and the rest are kind of bad. So that's that. Okay. So next up, Nimto Indian. This opening arises after d4, knight f6, c4, e6, knight c3, and bishop b4. And this is also a great opening, played by countless grandmasters, even up to today. I would say this is immortal for sure. This is Najdorf level. This is objectively good. Yeah, there's, this opening is so good that even the white players are now playing lines which are just plainly better for black, just to, have a chance at mixing up the game. So yeah, this opening is great. It again fights for the center from a distance, often aiming to play bishop b6, bishop b7, resembles the Queen's Indian and the Bogo Indian, like I said. But you can also play d5. You can also play c5. You can play, in some variations, a knight c6, b6. Yeah, this is one eternal opening. It will never not be good. You can't go wrong with it. Any level, any player could play this and achieve great results. I would recommend this to absolutely everybody. That's, yeah. Yeah, the reason I put Sicilian in here is just because I was making the template. So, because obviously we're ranking each Sicilian individually. Okay, the Schliemann/Janisch against Ruy Lopez. That's this. So we start with the Ruy Lopez. And now they play f5. And, many of you who like the Vienna with white will like this opening. And this opening aims to open up the f-file. And then, get some type of attack on the king. The engines have more or less cracked it, I'd say. But, it's interesting. I would say it's good. Oh. Wait. I misclicked. I would say it's good, but only... wait. It's good even if you're good, but it's like a one-time only. It's just like the Chigorin. I would say it's better than Chigorin, but it's not exactly beautiful. Pin variation refers to the Sicilian pin variation, which is an opening I used to play when I was an 800 rated. And it starts like this. And now bishop b4. Immediately asking white a question. The thing is that, he's threatening to take the pawn on e4. Let's say he plays h3. Now he can take this pawn. And, yeah, even here, queen g4 is still good for white. But that's the idea. And so, yeah, basically, this opening has been refuted. Knight b5 is better for white, but the real move that's actually completely blowing it out of the water is e5. The reason is that after knight d5, both bishop d2 and queen g4 are good, but queen g4 really puts the nail in the coffin. And the reason is that after knight takes c3, you can take this one. Yeah, you can take that one. And there's no good discovery. There's nothing that he can do, Napoleon. So, essentially, this line wins for white. And I used to play this confidently with black when I was 1000 rated. But, yeah, nowadays it doesn't quite fly anymore. So now after queen g4, they play king f8. And they just accept they're much worse. I would say it's like good, but only if you're bad. Because, but it's definitely a lot worse than the Scheveningen. Maybe I should put Scheveningen, here. I'll put it here. Because it does have some surprise value. Like, if we're getting technical. Technically, if you play the Scheveningen, and they, forgot the 20th move of your theoretical line, you're gonna have a great position. The pin variation just sucks even if they forget everything. So, like, that's the issue. But it has some nostalgia. That's that's why I put it there. Okay, next up, Benoni defense. This one arises after d4, knight f6, c4, c5, d5, e6, knight c3, take, d6, and then they play g6 and bishop g7. And I've played this one only through a different move order. Because, now you have this e4, f4, bishop e5 attack, which kind of refutes the opening. So what many players do is they play e6 here, and then they play, after knight c3, they play d5 or bishop b4. And then against knight f3, they play c5. Because now you can't play f4 anymore. And this is good even if you're good. But only as a surprise, but it's better than these two. Yeah, it's... And it has very, historic value. It was the first, opening ever mentioned on the channel. It's featured in my first very cringe video. Which is, of course, a game from Michael Tal. Against Beer Brager. Yeah. And, the concept of black is to put the bishop on the long diagonal and expand on the queen side. And to hold off an expansion with e4, e5 by white. Because he sort of targets all his pieces against that square, like that. And yeah, I guess, nowadays it doesn't really work on the highest of levels, but it's good. It's good at any other level, I would say. Okay, we're almost there. Now we go to the Leningrad. Yeah, I mistyped again. But this is like the Dutch defense, and this starts after d4, f5, c4, knight f6, and for example knight f3, and now g6. Yeah, and the idea is to get a King's Indian, but with a pawn on f5 already. So you have an even stronger attack. And there's some truth to it, but, with the engines being there's many options that white has. So I would use it only as a surprise, but it's not trash, but like, it's also not very good. I would say it's below the Schliemann, probably. It's here. Yeah. The Dutch defense has the same issue. It's not like that by the way is if they were to play e6, bishop e7, b6, bishop b7. And this one also is kind of, yeah, I mean, of course you can play it technically, but it's objectively it's not that good anymore. And even back in the day, it was getting kind of crushed by Karpov as well. He really, had a couple of very great games against the Dutch defense, and also Anand had some. And yeah, I don't think this opening is really withstood the test of time like the immortal ones have, or the hold up or cooking. So I would put it in. It has surprise value. It has, yeah, but like less than the Leningrad probably. And I think now we are at the stone wall. That would be if you play d5. Here, e6, g3, d5. And this one has some point, but it does weaken all the dark squares. And yeah, just like the other Dutch defense, this one just creates a lot of weaknesses. And yeah, hasn't really withstood the test of time, but does have surprise value. It's there. You can try it. I would say it's, all of these openings are kind of good, but only if you're bad. But like, what about the one-time surprise value? Like maybe the good, but only if you're bad. Like tier is one too many. Because, you can play almost anything for the surprise value just once. Just once. Just try it. Because your opponent is not going to remember everything. He's not an engine. Right? So, yeah. Oh, well, speaking of good, but only if you're bad, the Scandinavian defense. Okay, so wait. Actually, the tier isn't exactly pointless. The Scandinavian is, of course, takes, and then queen takes d5. And this opening, I completely crushed, by the way, at the European Youth Chess Championships, with the game following knight c3, queen a5, d4, knight f6, knight f3, bishop f5. I think I played like bishop d2, e6, bishop c4, c6, knight d5. And we got into this tabia. And yeah, white has a very nice position, very solid. Black has no play. This is relying on tricks, just like the England Gambit. It doesn't really have any points. I don't know why my 2400 opponent would even try this against me, because I just got a winning position very, very quickly. Now, absolute beginners will probably mess this up. So I guess it's good if you're bad. But it's only good if you're bad. But it's below the pin variation. Don't play this opening, actually. Just don't touch it. Yeah. Just don't touch it. You're bringing out the queen early. It's vulnerable to all types of attacks. And, yeah, it's just not a good opening. It's just, it shouldn't really be played. The Trompovsky with black. That would be d4, knight f6, bishop g5. Yeah, I don't know why I put this in, because it's more of an opening for the white pieces. But yeah, black is doing fine after d5, c5, e6, and g6. No issues. But it's kind of a wide opening. So, you know, it's immortal. But it doesn't really make any sense to put it here. But, you know, I'll put it there anyway. It's fine. So this opening is just okay for black. You can equalize without too many issues. Hippo. Hippo would be when they, you know, you can play it against either e4 or d4, it doesn't really matter. But, you know, let's say e4, you play g6. And now, rather than playing the peerage defense, you start playing b6. And then you play bishop b7. Yeah, I think here he has e5, so there's probably some different move order. I guess knight bd7 maybe, queen d2. Can you play b6 here? Yes. You can play b6. And then, you know, you'll play bishop b7, a6, h6, and they'll wait and do nothing. And it doesn't work. It's never worked before. It's still not working. So, yeah, like, what are we doing and why? It doesn't really... The only use case is if you're playing a bad engine, because then they'll start shuffling around their pieces because they can't calculate all the complications. But yeah. Yes, I'm reading the comments, by the way. Yes, I am. Yes. But yeah, so I don't... there's not really any point to this opening except for it having some meme value. Yeah, just don't really try it. I guess now that I think about it, they sometimes also put the knight on e7, so they'll play like, you know, knight e7, knight d7, b6, a6. I think this is like the classical hippo. You know, I'm just making some moves, just trying to get it on the board. And it would be like this. And the point is that after h5, you can play g5. And if white would, you know, have a pawn on a5, you could play b5. But often, white can still make progress, you know, via moves like d5. And then playing f4. So yeah, just don't try this. It's not good. Like I said earlier. Yeah, we're almost at an end. Yeah, now we have the... Why did I even put this in here? This is the Bon Cloud opening. Yeah, mostly just known from the internet. I didn't know this until Hikaru, you know, made his jokes with this. Like, I mean, of course it's unplayable. That speaks for itself. Okay, we have Queen's Gambit declined. That would be this opening. Yeah, just e6 here, and typically, you know, we're speaking of this. This is like the Queen's Gambit declined. You know, black has the pawn chain pointing towards the king side, white towards the queen side. It brings interesting play. I've used it myself. Also, you know, with the video on Chess Classics, I showed you guys how I learned from the game of Petrosyan versus Bobotsov. Or actually, Bobotsov versus Petrosyan, now that I think about it. Yeah, it gives beautiful games. It's very solid. It's immortal for sure. It's better than the Slav. Also. Yeah. It's just got, like, these openings are all immortal. So they're not really, you know, I say it's better than the Slav, but it's only better because I say so. Like, there's not, I couldn't, you know, give an exact reason. It's just, well, you know, this opening gives positions which I prefer, but like, it's kind of up to the person. Yeah, you know, so like if you like drawing, maybe the Slav is better for you. Like, could be. Then we have the Cosio. The Cosio is this opening. Bishop b5 and now knight e7. This one I've been tricked by too many times. Yeah, I've had some tough games with this, with the white pieces. But overall, it should give an advantage to white, and I would say it's hold up or cooking. It's like it's definitely worse than the Bogo Indian, also worse than this, but it has some surprise value with black. You know, you're reinforcing this. And typically they play this, by the way, and now you get your knight to c6. So that was the point of the entire operation. So yeah, I think this is a great opening, but it's not like the best opening ever. Let's put it that way. Zaitsev would be a6, bishop a4, and again the classical position which we've seen like a million times at this point. So here after d6, castles h3, we've looked at knight b8, knight a5, and now bishop b7 is the Zaitsev variation made by, I think, Vasil Zaitsev, the second of Anatoly Karpov during his World Championship match. And this one has withstood the test of time. The only issue being that after this move, white can force a draw. That's the only issue. Because, like, the rook has to go here, and then... But, okay, if you're a serious player with white, you obviously don't do such a thing. So you play knight d2. Or, you know, I think... Yeah, no, I think actually knight d2 is the only move. You have a3, a4, but... Mostly like this, bishop f8, now you can play a3, a4, the d5, bishop c2. Interesting. It's very interesting from both colors. I would put it definitely in Immortal as well. You should try that one. If you have too much free time, you know, just study the Zaitsev, why not? Okay, now we have Alyekhin. e4, knight f6. And this move is very spirited, a surprise weapon, objectively bad, it's been broken, but it encapsulates the 20th century chess, which is attacking the center from a distance, because typically you'll get this, and black doesn't put any pawns in the center this time, but wants to pressure the center from a distance with his pieces. It's very provocative, doesn't really, you know, it doesn't really work out in the end due to this move f4, as well as the move e takes d6 also being, you know, a little bit better for white. But I would say it has surprise value. It's more surprise value than these openings, probably. Yeah, probably. Probably it's even... Yeah, it should be like this. Yeah, it's decent. It's there. Benko Gambit. This is actually, you know, also my first opening, but then against 1d4. Which is knight f6, c4, c5, d5. And now, rather than playing the Benoni with e6, you play b5, takes a6. And this one is just kind of bad. But, like, it is what it is. It's an uncompromising line, you know, black fights for the initiative, but the engines have kind of cracked it completely open. I do think, you know, Anish Giri made some chessable course on this. I don't know why. Maybe it's kind of underrated and I'm underestimating it. Could be, you know, perhaps. I would put it has some surprise value. It's definitely better than the Dutch and the Stonewall and stuff like that. It's better than Alyekhin. It's not better than Chikurin. Yeah. I'll put it here. You could try it. You shouldn't be ashamed if you play it. Let's say it like that. It's alright. You know. Then we have the Latvian Gambit, which is also the last on our list, by the way. Which is e5, knight f3, and then f5. Yeah, and just like the d5 move here, again, you know, you can take on f5. You can play knight c3. You can play knight takes e5. You can probably play d4. They all give an advantage to white. It's garbage unplayable. Like, makes no sense. I don't know who came up with it. You know, why we are doing it. I've never seen any Grandmaster win with this ever. So that's why I'm putting it there. Alright, yeah, I think this this is kind of the entire list. Wait, let me see if you guys could see the entire thing. Wait, I have to actually crop it a little bit now that I see it here. So you guys can see these on the left. Ooh, yeah, it's like this. This is the entire list. It's the final. It's the every single black opening ever. It's there. The list is done. You know, I think next week, maybe even sooner, because of course it's vacation, I'll make another list, and then for every single white opening, and we'll go through the history of each one again, and do yeah, just exactly that. Now, as the stream is ending, yeah, of course it's my time to request things of you, the viewer. So first of all, yeah, you can join the Discord. You know, I'm trying to get people to submit some games so I can analyze them live, and we can have a nice live stream. And overall, I think we should just build a nice community of people. I think it will be great. The link is in the description. You know, if you enjoy this content, of course, consider subscribing and liking the video, and, you know, commenting and all that type of stuff. And yeah, of course, you know, soon I'm gonna play the Rilton Cup, like I said, so then I will yeah, be gone. So yeah, you know, I'll put in my Discord when I'm gonna stream